Hogstye.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's the Hogstye, and it's your host, Alex East here. I got Steve with me. No Jamal today. He texted us last minute that he's otherwise occupied. I'm not really sure what's going on with him there.
I know he's probably doing his flag football stuff.
Yeah, probably his flag football stuff is starting up. He's got so many irons in the fire. You know, it really is hard to keep track. Anyway, it's just Steve and I. We got a jam-packed show to talk about a lot of training camp stuff. But first, we also have to tell you guys some news. It's not necessarily bad news, but we are going to be making some changes to the show. Long story short, because Steve is much less passionate about the team, the Commanders, no longer the Redskins. The Dan Snyder stuff plays into it, right, Steve, for you?
Yes, a big.
I mean, my own feelings of I'm still going to be a fan of the team. They're the local team. Until they move to like rural Virginia, and I no longer consider them a DC team, they're still my team. So like I'm still passionate. But we're going to start focusing not just on the Washington football team here on this show. We're going to try and focus on the whole NFL. It's kind of what we're thinking. All this is still we're going to feel it out a little bit, right, Steve?
Yeah, that's not to say it's going to be a whole all NFL show.
No.
We're still going to cover Washington. We think it's going to be once a week now.
Yeah.
Probably release on Thursday. Some other teams and things. And will allow me to more fairly cover the team because I've been pretty negative about the team for 2 years now, and I don't want to be like that.
Right.
You guys probably don't want to hear that. I mean, you know, the sycophants listen to us. So what we're probably, instead of always in the past, we've done post-game wrap-up release Sunday night or Monday morning, and then the game preview on Thursday morning. We're going to transition to one show a week. We're probably going to cover some all NFL topics to keep me entertained, and we will cover the status of Washington, as well, from the game before, the new game, whatever's going on. And frankly, I think anyway, regardless, that'll be a more interesting show. I don't know how many people even care to hear a game recap a lot of weeks when, the teams in the death throes of mediocrity. Right. So this is going to be a better show.
Once we're out of the playoffs, does anyone care about that stuff?
Yeah, right. And for me, it'll keep me more entertained and engaged. So we think it'll be better. So that's the plan.
And let's be honest, both you and I, we've done this now for 7 years, or we're going into our seventh season.
7, yeah.
Yeah. There is a lot of burnout that comes with doing the regular season. When we were doing 2 shows a day, we'd say they were a half hour. They were never a half hour. They always went 45 minutes, it felt like.
Yeah.
And that's not including our pre-production time and all the other stuff that we have to do.
Well, and for me, if people don't understand it, doing what we do kills an entire Sunday, basically, because you start kind of preparing and setting up. Because for me and for you too, Alex, it's not just like sitting down and watching a game. We're taking notes. We're paying very close attention. We're watching online stats. We were live tweeting. I got sick of it, and Alex started doing it.
Yeah, I'll still be doing that. I haven't been tweeting as much from the Hog side.
Oh, really?
Like during the off season, a little bit here and there. When something interesting is happening, I try to, but I'll try and do it during the season, during the game still.
Yeah, but and we did after the show. Alex would have to produce the show and edit and mix it. I had to edit a game recap, write a game recap, write the takeaways column. It's a grind. And I'm just kind of tired of it, and especially when a team I don't root for anymore. I enjoy talking about football, and that's why we're going to continue.
Right. But look, I think most of our fans and most fans of the Commanders, we all understand that it's not the same team, and I don't, other than maybe like the not the Hogettes, what do you call what are those guys? The hog farmers?
Hog farmers.
Yeah, other than like the super fan types like that, I can't imagine anybody's fan emotions are the same as they were 5 years ago.
Well, based on the 5 people that were at training camp this week, if you saw the photos.
Yeah.
Even the crowded day, we only had about 50 people there.
Yeah, we did not have that on the list. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll cover that. And I also want to talk about I saw on Twitter the other day when I was scanned through it, my weekly scan, that the team had put out new lyrics to Hail to the Redskins, which
Yeah.
offended me deeply and greatly at a core level.
So many things we didn't even put on the show list
I
because
know.
we have so
We're
much
gonna wing
else.
it. We're gonna wing it.
I'm gonna write. Hold on. Let me write fight song. Let me
Alex is
write that
making a
down.
note.
Fight song.
I brought it up because I knew
No
we forgot to
fans.
mention it. It
All
was
right.
like a way to tell you we need to talk about it, but
Yes.
in a show kind of way.
Yes. All right. So look, we don't know how it's gonna look when we actually start doing these shows now in the season. Like I said, we'll feel it out. That sometimes is the fun part of doing these. You remember those first years when we were doing them with Sean and Robbie and John for a while, and
We used to play games and
we used
stuff.
to
We
play
didn't know what we were
games.
doing.
We did all sorts of weird stuff to try and figure this out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bad thing. I think it was. Eventually, we kind of settled on what we do. So
I remember I did one entire show as Kermit the Frog, I think, one time. Or I got through
Yeah.
like half of it before I got tired of doing it.
I don't even remember why we did that.
I just did it because I have I can do voices, and I had a good Kermit the Frog voice.
We were making fun of how Patrick Mahomes sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Oh, is that what? And I remember we had one where Robbie played Odell Beckham's kicking net. Remember?
Yeah, we did the kicking net.
We interviewed the kicking net. Remember?
Yeah. A lot of voice impression attempts. It was not
because Robbie did voices too, and so between the two of us, we could do several voices.
Robbie even got some gigs doing a little voiceover work for a while. So
well, yeah, he was on Fiverr, I think, and he would do voiceovers on Fiverr.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
All right, so let's change up.
At one point, remember, I was going to record a Creed song because we had lyrics to it. I don't even remember. It was Arms Wide Open.
Right,
I had to learn
because
Arms
Kirk
Wide
Cousins
Open.
loved Creed.
Yeah, and so we were and we never ended up recording, but I had to sit and practice Arms Wide Open over and over again to learn it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, let's change gears, and we can talk about rewriting songs with this next topic, because I did a little song rewrite. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Okay, so Dan Snyder had his 11-hour testimony from Israel. You talked a lot about that, you said, on IJB. People should look out for that later this week.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily want to get into that because no one knows what was said. It was all
so I think the transcript will be released. The transcript at least, because they released the other transcripts. And this comes to my standard disclosure that this committee shouldn't exist and is a gross abuse of congressional authority. I have to say that every time.
Right.
But they released.
You do have OCD. So.
Well, it's not that. I want to make sure everybody understands that this is not appropriate congressional investigative material.
Fine.
But I do have some OCD, yes. But point is, they released
the
other.
Some might be an understatement, Steve.
No,
I think
I'm not.
If you'd been born 15 years later, you would have been well diagnosed.
I'm not washing my hands 10 times. I don't do that. It's not like that. But I do have some OCD-like tendencies. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, point is, they released all the other transcripts, so they will probably release the Snyder transcript.
Eventually, yeah. All right, so here's the thing that you didn't know, and I told you just before our show.
Yeah.
And it's so transparent and obvious, it's hilarious. Dan Snyder said he couldn't come in person. He had to do it from Israel. He's been in Europe for months, ever since the subpoena stuff started coming out. Dan Snyder's plane left Israel and landed in JFK Airport 11 hours ago.
We don't know Snyder was on the plane, though, do we?
We don't, but it's a fairly safe assumption that if the plane goes to Israel, then comes back to JFK.
But it could have been her. It could have been someone else.
Dan's kids, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's just a very funny little coincidence that right after he's done with the congressional thing, he's not going to be subpoenaed now. I'm sure that was part of the discussion for 11 hours.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. And look, I mean, would it surprise me if Dan was on the plane? No, not at all, because he's a loser and a coward and a terrible person.
It's the most transparent. Oh, yeah. I skipped out of town that I've ever seen.
But that having been said, like I just mentioned, I don't know where you got this information. I assume it was on Twitter
it was on my favorite thing to follow, the Dan Snyder's yacht tracker guy.
Yeah, I mean, I know how planes are tracked because they file flight plans and that stuff.
Right, because he tracks both. He tracks.
I don't know how the GPS on I still don't know how you're tracking GPS.
I downloaded the app to my phone. It's not hard.
But those are private and there aren't flight plans. Are
No.
they hacking into these yachts? I mean,
No,
that's
the
what I
yachts
want.
have, I guess, public GPSs. That's
No, but it's not public,
it
and it's
is.
not broadcasting. How are you doing this? A flight plan is filed with the FAA, or not the FAA, filed with
Steve,
authorities.
all I can tell you is I have a thing on my phone now where I
I
can track
know, I
every
know,
boat
I
ever.
get it. I know, but I want to know how. But anyway, so that's like for the online privacy show, maybe. But
Yes, but
anyway,
that is very funny, right? If Dan really did just like come back right
it's the most
after the
Dan
Zoom,
Snyder thing ever. What a just a
right,
horrible human
right,
being. I
and
wonder
so
what
by
it's
the way,
like to be that bad of a person and be yet
hmm
simultaneously so narcissistic that you don't know it.
yeah. All right. Well, I mean, look, there's the list of billionaires who are like this is pretty long. You know, it
Yeah, he's not the only one for sure.
no.
Here's my question about this. Is this guy going to have the unmitigated gall to show up on the sidelines
Oh yes, I guarantee.
and
I
pretend like nothing's wrong and he's the
Steve,
king?
I will bet you a Hogstye buck or whatever we want to bet. Like,
Stipebuck, which
yes,
is worth about a cent.
yeah. Well, look, it's a pain in the ass for me to mail you $1. So,
We'll
but
consider it a
I'll
hog
bet
buck.
you some street cred or something that
Okay.
Dan will be on the sideline at least once during this training camp.
DoorDash me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
DoorDash you that? Do you realize like that's a $25 PB&J, right?
If you lose the bet, you lose the bet.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, all right. So by the way, the thing I did, I was really bored one day at work, and I was tweeting back and forth with the Dan Snyder's Yacht guy just
Do
because
they follow us?
they don't follow us. No, I don't think so. But it was a very funny, and I ended up just because I rewrote "Sticks Come Sail Away" to be all about Dan Snyder hiding out in the.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it's not
You tell
hard.
me I'm gonna have to go learn Sticks Come Sail Away and play that.
No,
We can
well, here's the
record it.
thing. I'm all for if someone wanted to do a cover of it and use it, feel free. It's on
My
my
problem
personal
with
Twitter.
that is that there's a pretty big keyboard part in it, and I really don't have a keyboard.
Right.
That would be
Also,
I could do the
I
guitar
don't think
part.
you nor I could sing like that. So,
I can't sing really at all. I could maybe
Yeah.
do some background vocals and that's it. But so we'd have to find a vocalist. But I could do the guitar part. It's got a really cool guitar part to it.
Oh, it
But the
does.
keyboard would be hard.
I mean, I'm not into yacht rock, and I did it mostly to make fun of yacht rock, but you know,
Would you care to give us a sample of your lyrics?
No. Oh, my lyrics.
You put it. You
I'd
put
have to
it
hunt
out
them down.
somewhere,
I'd have
right?
to hunt those down.
I'm not saying sing it,
Oh yeah. Okay. Give
especially
me
a cappella with no,
stall for a minute, Steve. I gotta like
Okay.
go onto my Twitter and find
Okay,
the lyrics.
fair enough.
'Cause-
So yeah, so I think that's great. I love Sticks. I think it's, but that's
Are
a
you a
good thing.
Styx guy? I wasn't sure if that would be your.
What's good classic rock? I'm not a huge Styx fan, but like stuff like Mr. Roboto is a little bit outside of my
Right.
comfort zone. But like Come Sail Away, it's got a really freaking cool guitar part there at the end. I mean, because it's one of these songs that kind of builds and then it's very cool. But anyway, so the Snyder thing, what I was getting at is it's going to take a lot of gall for the guy to show up on the sidelines in
Mhm.
at training camp, in the stadium with his stupid sunglasses on and his suit, and stand there and pretend like absolutely nothing's wrong. I mean, I really want to know if he's going to do that. And actually, I wouldn't bet you, Alex, because I think he probably will. I was actually going to agree with you. So I'm not betting a PB&J, a DoorDash PB&J.
Okay. Okay. All right. You want? I'll give you.
Give me a sample. Don't read the whole thing.
Yeah. I'll just give you the opening line. You
Okay.
know because everyone knows the song, right?
Well, give us the real opening line first.
All right. The real opening line is "I'm sailing away, set an open course for virgin seas, because I've got to be free." Free to face the life that's ahead of me, or is it the night?
Free to face the life that's ahead of me.
Yeah, so I rewrote it as Dan's sailing away, set an open course for European seas, 'cause Dan's got to be free from subpoena testimony.
You really can't sing at all.
No, well, I'm also not trying to shout it because my wife's still asleep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I assume it goes on from there. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
You were clearly bored this week if you went through that level of effort.
Yeah, it was just one day we had nothing going on, so I'm just sitting there. Like, I was the only one who even showed up to my office.
See, when you practice law, that does not happen.
No. When you're in D.C. and work for the government in August and July, guess what? No one shows up. It's too
Excuse
damn
me,
hot.
Mr. Mayor. I'm rewriting Come Sail Away. Please call me back.
Yeah, I do it between troubleshooting tickets. That's kind of what happens.
So the good part about what you do is you're busy, but you have long periods of off time. And even when you're busy, you don't have to really pay substantive attention to these meetings. You just have to pay attention to the technology part of it.
Right.
So you can
Yeah.
do some other things. I can't do any of that.
Exactly. When I'm doing a webcast, I'm literally just sitting there switching a camera whenever someone talks. So like, hit a button. All right, I'm good for 5 minutes. Let me write another line.
Yeah.
That is kind of how it works in the AV. That's why I got into video production. I know it's not a real job. It's a fake job. It's great.
Maybe I will sit down and try to figure out a guitar-only arrangement for Come Sail Away. We'll see.
Yeah,
I have time. We'll see.
I'll send you the whole thing at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. So hilarious to me that Dan just flew back right away.
It's a very Dan Snyder thing.
It is.
Wonder if Tanya's ashamed of him. She's not going to divorce him because it's too much
she'd
money.
have to be ashamed of herself too. So
maybe she is, and she's never gonna divorce him because there's billions of dollars at stake.
Right.
But I mean, don't you sit there and wonder? It's like, man, everybody hates this guy, and I have to. How long's it been since we've seen him in public together?
It's been a while. Oh well, no, the uniform release. That's the last one I remember.
But even then, he was like standing kind of. He said like 2 words and stood on the sidelines, kind of.
Right.
There's never film of them or video like TMZ level video of them like at a restaurant.
No.
Something.
The stories of him going to restaurants are also not great.
Oh, really? I haven't heard these.
Oh, yeah. There was I see him on social media every once in a while. He's a real jerk to the wait staff and doesn't tip and all that kind of stuff.
Of course, because his name's Dan. Continue to be a fan of this team, people.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we change up? The team has had 2 retirements. One we are going to argue about. It's not really retirement, according to Steve. So Antonio Gandy Golden, who has what was he, a 4th round pick? Didn't really do anything his rookie year. He's a 4th or 5th round pick. Doesn't matter now because he's no longer going to be with the team. Yeah. Because he couldn't do anything as a wide receiver last year. He tried moving to tight end. It obviously wasn't working out for him. So he's announced he's retiring and going back to school, going to grad school.
He's not actually retiring.
Yeah. Steve would argue he's not retiring. I would say he's calling it a retirement. So I'm just calling it retirement.
Chocolate cake if he wants. The point is a retirement is defined by the collective bargaining agreement, and you have to have, I believe it is 4 good years in order to be vested in the NFL's retirement program.
Right. You have to basically complete your rookie contract.
He has 1. He may not have 2, depending on how. I don't remember what his stats was last year, but at most he has 2. So he's not retiring. He is no longer playing football, and that's fine. He can make a life choice, and he can even call it a retirement. But just understand that he's not retiring.
Yeah. Well, look, he wasn't going to work out. I think the odds were really stacked against him.
He's smart.
Yeah.
He has a future in front of him. He can go back to school and get a master's degree, or maybe he's finishing his bachelor. I don't know.
I think he's getting his master's.
Because he's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
He can do a lot of things. I don't know how. I have no idea what he's interested in or whatever, but I applaud him because, listen, it wasn't going to work out here. I mean, the tight end thing we all knew was kind of a Hail Mary for him because they didn't want to waste a draft pick. He's probably going to be gone, if not this year, some other year soon. He knew he wasn't going to be a 10-year career, so he just pulled the plug, move on. Yeah. I admire that.
Steve, if at 24 years old you decided, I'm going to change up, but you know what? You end up with $500,000 in the bank account because of what you did for a year. That's not a bad way to start your life.
Well, at 24 years old, I had a mandatory service commitment.
Right.
To the Department of Defense, so I couldn't have quit even if I'd wanted to. And
I understand that, but I'm just saying, in general, any 24-year-old starting out with $500,000 in the bank account, not a bad thing.
If they're smart.
Yeah.
And he is, but a lot of these guys aren't smart, and so they blow all their money and all their childhood friends and all that stuff, like those stories we've heard. Like there was some, I meant to mention this, Kevin Ware, who was a linebacker for Washington in 2003, got charged with murder in Harris County. I have not pulled the case, so if I have some time, I'll try to. So I don't really know what it's all about. But there's a guy who's ruined his life. Spent 2 years in the NFL, totally blew it. Now he's in jail. He's already in jail for something else, and now he's probably going to go away for life.
Wow, that's awful. That's just
Yeah,
terrible.
well, I was more awful for the person he allegedly killed, but
Yeah.
yes.
Oh no, I just meant the whole story is
Yeah,
awful.
yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it's just awful for him. No, it's
It's less awful for him.
yeah. I mean, unlike the whole DeShazer Everett thing where it's manslaughter and I feel bad for him as well as the family and every like
Yeah.
if it's just murder, that's a different thing.
Well, I give one thing's for sure is that nobody's going to mess with him if he bends over and drops the soap.
No, with an ex NFL player, I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I think he can drop the soap to his heart's content and be fine.
That's a weird sentence, man.
Well, maybe
right.
he tempts fate. Maybe he likes doing that. I don't know. I don't know him at all. I don't even remember him.
I don't either. All right, why don't we move?
To each their own, Alex.
Let's get back on track here. Ryan Kerrigan retired, Steve.
Yes.
Ryan Kerrigan, the last Redskin is what people are calling him now with his retirement, which not a bad little name. When you think back, Ryan Kerrigan, he's going to be a Ring of Fame guy, right? He technically has the record for the most sacks in team history. Good dude, smart dude. Didn't he have like some kind of like the first 8 years he never missed a game or something like that?
Yeah, it went on. I think wouldn't swear to 8, but yes,
It went on for a long time.
Yeah,
he was a real Iron Man for most of his career.
Yes.
Just kind of surprising that he's not like he probably could play another 2 or 3 years, you'd think, but I guess no one's picking him up.
Look, he's made a ton of money. Washington paid him a lot of money, and he sees the handwriting on the wall. He doesn't need the money anymore. I mean, he's not gonna. I mean, he only had 2 starts last year for the Eagles.
Right.
No sacks.
Yeah, he kind of moved into
3
a
tackles. Role. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to hang on another year and endanger your health more when he go do something else. And by the way, so the streak went 9 years. It went from 2011 through 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, and so and then he played 12 games of 2019 and then 16 in 2020, but was not a starter, because Chase Young and Montez Sweat had showed up. I know just last week I said I wasn't going to put him in the last 10 of the Redskins top 90 or whatever, but I've kind of changed my mind on it.
Yeah.
After looking at him, I mean, I don't know how I was stupid enough to leave a guy with 95 sacks out.
That streak is just the streak is almost more impressive than the sack total. How do you go that long without just an injury knocking you out?
Brandon Scherf went 5 years or something, but not 9.
Yeah.
So anyway, I revised, huh?
Yeah, Brandon Scherf did
for a long time. Yeah, let me look that up too. But so I'm revising my last list from last week, and I'm taking some unknown person I can't remember off the list and putting.
Take like Champ Bailey off. I don't remember if he was on your list.
Okay, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. So Brandon Scherf went 2 years.
Right.
And then he missed 2 games in 2017 and went down from there. So I thought it was longer. So my fault.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, look, it good on Kerrigan retiring. He did the whole thing where he signed a one-day contract with Washington to retire with the Commanders, Redskins, whatever he wants to pretend he's called in those last.
I saw that in the video. This morning as I looked, he was not wearing a Redskins jersey. He was wearing I don't know if it was a Washington football team or Commanders jersey. I think it was a Commanders shirt.
I didn't see that because I didn't watch the retirement yet. But
I just saw again as I was scanning through Twitter. I saw this morning. I saw that Washington was covering his press conference. Let me see here.
Now I saw him doing yesterday. He came back to Redskins Park and he was there was a standing ovation from the current defensive linemen. It looked like all standing there applauding as he came through with his family, which is a nice little touch because he definitely was there to mentor Sweat and Young that final year.
Okay, he's wearing a shirt that has the W. I think that's the current W. You can tell how much attention I pay these days.
Yeah.
and it just says football on it. So it's not a Washington football. So I think he's wearing a current
That just sounds
Commanders
like a
logo thing.
generic current,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
so. Yeah.
not even a uniform, but
So
sure.
he's getting with the program, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Fall in
I'm sure they
line,
just handed it to him.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I would. I'd be curious to see. He's definitely going to go in the Ring of Fame.
Yes.
Uh, I'll
He ought
be
to get
curious to
Hall of
see
Fame
what kind of.
consideration.
Hmm?
He ought to get Hall of Fame consideration at least.
Yeah, I would think consideration, but probably not Hall of Fame
No, I don't
caliber.
think he is, but he ought to at least be named a semifinalist or something.
Yeah.
You know?
I gotta say, man, the couple years where it was him and Arakpo was healthy and he started playing, that was a pretty good little pass rush off the edge they had those 2 seasons before Arakpo started going downhill quickly.
I always thought that the team misused um,
Those two.
Kerrigan, especially Kerrigan. I think he should have been a dedicated pass rusher. I never thought his highest and best use was as a linebacker, and it
Right.
was really because the team had this 3-4 defense that nobody liked, and that was
Yeah,
why he was a linebacker. And I never
Jim
thought it was
Haslett
like,
and Mike Shanahan were obsessed with trying to run a 3-4.
yeah, and I never thought that, and I never understood it, and I always thought Kerrigan would have been better as a 4-3 defensive end.
Yeah. Well, the irony of it was, and not to backtrack on that too much, but they wanted to run a 3-4 and they never bothered finding a great nose tackle, which is what you need to run a 3-4. It
Yeah,
all
it was
starts
very
with a
weird.
yeah. If you don't have that, you're not going to be successful. Although I think they did have, and I'm not doing a deep dive right now, but I think they did have a season where Kerrigan and Rakpo were both around a double-digit sack total, or there might have been one year where they both got to 10. I don't
No,
remember.
I think you're probably right. I think that
Yeah,
did happen.
yeah. Well, regardless, congrats to Kerrigan. Selfishly as a fan, hope they find something for him to do with the team. Like I think he would be great eventually on some of these radio broadcasts, and they need, if they want to do the 3-man booth thing, getting somebody like that would be good.
Well, I mean, they just replaced D'Angelo Hall with London Fletcher, if I recall.
Oh, right, they did.
So,
Yeah, so they
yeah,
don't really need a defensive
that
guy.
surprises me greatly too, because London has said some things negatively about the team.
Yeah, I was
Not for
surprised
a
Hall
while.
left.
Well, who knows? I mean, maybe he had some other an offer, maybe he had some life thing. I mean, he
Yeah.
never really said. I don't think he's on bad terms with the team.
No, I don't think so either. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because Kerrigan's also a very articulate guy, so that's why I think he'd be good in broadcast.
Yeah, but also you have to want to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe these guys, maybe D'Angelo Hall had wanted nothing to do with this crappy organization.
Could be.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we move on? All right, so some roster stuff going on. Chase Rouillet's back. Chase Young looks like he's going to be missing sometimes, which is not surprising, by the way, on Chase Young. I had forgotten, Steve, that for Chase Young's ACL, that they had to do surgery on both legs because they had to move something from one leg to the other to, do his surgery.
Before we hit that, before I forget, I just saw just now, and Alex, you knew this, but Washington has made 2 roster moves in addition to what you're saying.
So that one that I saw a rumor about was real?
Yeah, so they've signed 2 tackles, one named Alex Akingbulu, if that's how to pronounce his name, and the other is tackle Rashad Hill. Both of them have been signed, and then they have also, and I'm editing my chart as we go, have released center guard Bo Benchwall to make up for this. So they lost Gandy Golden and Benchwall and gained
2 tackles.
Akingbulu and Rashad Hill, and I don't know anything about either one of them. So
I don't either. I mean, I know Hill played for the Vikings. He's a 6-year vet, and I only know that because I saw the stuff about him released by his agent on Twitter, which we hadn't really verified. So it's surprising that they went for 2 swing tackles because they
didn't have a lot of tackles though.
But they have their core 3 guys. Like we know who those are from last year.
But they need 90 players though.
Yeah.
And they have a whole bunch of interior linemen. They don't have a bunch of
tackles.
No.
So that's all right. That's fair. But the thing about it to me is we still don't have that third linebacker that they need.
I don't know what in the world.
So I was listening to, I think 106.7, and Standing was on talking about that, by the way. He said that basically the teams made a bunch of offers, but they're only offering vet minimum to guys. And most of the linebacker veterans out there are just, why would I take that?
But that's, and I'm glad he reported that.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't solve the problem anyway. They should have spent actual money
Right.
a long time ago on a real linebacker.
Not even break the bank money, but like $4 or $5 million on a decent guy would be the smart move, in my opinion.
Or draft somebody. They didn't draft a linebacker, remember?
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know. I mean, I think it's really weird, especially since Ron Rivera's a linebacker.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking, and I think faith in Cole Holcomb as a plus level player is misplaced.
I wonder if we were just talking about it, becoming obsessed with trying to run a scheme. I'm wondering if that's what's going on, and they're so obsessed with wanting to run this whole Cobra package or whatever it'll be called, Buffalo nickel thing.
The word that Jamal hates.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I like Cobra. Cobra was the old term for it, and I like that better. Cobra's always cool.
By the way, Alex Akinbulu is from Fresno State.
Oh, okay.
So there
Rookie?
you go. Yeah, he's not in Pro Football Reference at all, but he is in
the other one, the one for college.
He's in the college one.
Yeah.
So, but they don't have any details on him at all, but because he's a lineman. But
yeah,
so
I can't remember what that's called. Like it's like Sports Ball Reference. I don't remember. It's a very weird name.
It's sportsreference.com. Sports-reference.com/college football.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's in there. All right, that makes sense. Yeah. So not surprising they would let go of the center now that Chase Roullier is back.
I think Chase Roullier is probably their best offensive lineman.
Yes.
And not because he's making the biggest contract, but he's a really high performer. I don't pretend to be an expert in interior offensive line play, but I do trust guys like Bullock.
Right.
Mark Tyler knows what he's looking at. And those guys like Chase a lot, and I'm willing to take their word for it. And from what little expertise I have in interior offensive line play, he always looks good to me.
Yeah.
But I don't claim to be an expert. But so yeah, I mean that's also probably why they got rid of Bo Benchwall.
Yeah, I don't think he's an all-star necessarily, but most places seem to say he's a top 10 center in the league.
I think it's really hard for interior offensive linemen to get to that level just because they're kind of anonymous. And like the fans, unless it's a really big name or you're a center for a star quarterback, like everybody knew Jeff Saturday because he was Peyton Manning's center.
Right.
If you'd put Jeff Saturday in like Cleveland, nobody'd know Jeff Saturday except as the day of the week,
The rare ones who do stand out are the ones who are like ultra athletic freaks too. Brandon Scherff, who was here forever. When you see a guy who can run as fast as some of the running backs and always is getting to that second level, that's when fans can notice it. But day-to-day blocking, no.
I think the best sign of how good Chase Roullier is that the team has signed him to a $40 million contract.
Yeah.
They could easily go out and look at what they're doing with linebackers, for God's sakes.
Look what they're doing with guards.
Yeah, right. And no, Chase is the guy who has the big money. He is the biggest money on the team by gross dollars. Andrew Norwell has slightly higher average annual value at $5 million. And no, I'm wrong. Roullier is at 5. I was looking at the wrong column in my chart. Roullier has the highest average annual value on the offensive line, $5.0625 million. Yeah. And it's a center, so that just ought to tell you something.
Yep, it does. It does definitely tell you something. All right, since you mentioned these two topics, do we want to touch on the fight song or the fan attendance thing? I feel like let's do the fan attendance because it's a lot more fun. The fight song.
I'd like to do both real fast, quickly.
Okay. So let's do the fight song's quick. They put out two options they're rewriting the fight song. It's almost identical, except now it's Hail to the Commanders, which is 6 beats instead of 5. And then Fight for Our Commanders is one version. And then what was the other one? Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, they're both terrible.
I've put it out of my mind. So in terms of the Yes, it's 6 beats. You can still make it. So that phrase, being a musician myself, it's that first line is 2 measures at
Right.
4/4 time. And so the first line, basically the lyrics had 5 beats. Hail to the Redskins.
Right.
And because one of them was a half note. And then so Commanders, you could do one of those syllables as an eighth note, and it would still work in 2 measures. It just sounds funny compared to what we're used to. But
Hmm.
my I don't care about the lyrics, either one. My larger point here is that it insults me as a fan of the Redskins. They're going to co-opt that great song and turn it into what you guys decided to hang on to the history of is the song. I was kind of insulted that you just come up with some other new song for if you're going to erase everything else. Let me have "Hail to the Redskins." I guess that was what I wanted to say.
And look, I understand that point of view. I understand them. I think everyone's kind of come to this conclusion. The team tried to have their cake and eat it too with this name change. And when you try to split the difference between holding on to the history of the team while doing this versus just starting over, you've really come away failing at both. They had to lean into one direction or the other, which I would have leaned towards history because that's who I am. I'm more of a history, legacy, nostalgia nerd. I'm a millennial. We love nostalgia. So, uh, but yeah, this I don't like either version of the song. Uh, the one that I remember, which is what I would probably go with, is this one that was "Hail to the Commanders, Hail Victory, Fight on, or Fight for Our Commanders." But it just seems so redundant. Like the way that one comes off, it's just very redundant. And the other one, I can't even remember. It was so blah that I don't remember.
I didn't even really read the lyrics that closely because
Yeah.
the concept of it bothers me a lot.
Right.
Um, and I also, by the way, saw that the team filed a trademark. I saw a lot of things this week, more than I normally see. They filed a trademark for Command Force, I believe it was.
Oh, for the new cheerleader name, yeah.
And by the way, I mean the whole new entertainment. They call it an entertainment team, which is
Right.
pathetic and looks ridiculous. And I don't know what was wrong with the old cheerleader team. I mean, the
They were
team
all suing Dan Snyder. That was the
abused.
fault.
Yes, the team abused the cheerleaders, and their response to that was to fire them all.
Right.
Just
Right.
awful. And the new team, this new entertainment team looks stupid. Last year, everybody I know that saw him said it was awful.
Yeah. No, it was a joke.
Yeah,
From what I
and it will
saw.
remain a joke for a joke franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not good.
No.
Um, like I said, don't stop listening to marketing experts and actually just hire some people who live around here.
Telling you
And
guys, everybody loves Jason Wright because he has a good smile and he's charismatic and he shakes hands. This guy is not all that.
the longer he's here, the worse it's going to be for his reputation.
Yes.
I have no doubt in my mind that eventually they'll move him to the NFL headquarters, and he'll probably do very well as like kind of what Troy Vincent does. You know what I mean?
Yes. Something. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, something along those lines. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, they need something.
He just strikes me is what he really is a consultant. That's what Kinsey
Right.
does. Where he came from, and that's sort of what you said it before. It's like he has no connection to Washington. The way he acts is sort of consultant-y,
Yeah.
and it's just again, we pick the fight song to be the one thing that you're going to hang
Mhm.
on to, and that insults me maybe most of all. Is co-opting the fight song.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even keep the colors really.
No,
Like,
they didn't. And I like the black uniforms. I mean, what are
yeah, I know you
it's
hate them. I hate them.
it's the Steelers.
Yeah.
Just
There's
awful.
if they'd done like black with a lot of burgundy, at least that would be original.
Black is not a team color.
No, it wasn't a Redskins color, other than the hair of the logo.
Right. It's not a
Yeah.
primary color. There may have been accents,
Yeah.
but it's not the primary colors of the Redskins and of the Washington football team, and for that matter of the C words, are burgundy and gold. Some shade of burgundy and gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And then
burgundy, gold, white as a away color.
Yes.
And
Where did black come from?
well, like I said, the only black that there's ever been has been in the logo, the hair of the Redskins logo, and
It
then
really
I guess the
looks.
feathers had black too.
And you got, everybody listening, and especially Alex knows I don't care about this stuff very much,
No.
and so I don't pay a lot of attention to it. I'm not into appearances, but so without my natural mindset of just glazing over it, I recognize that it looks to me exactly like the Steelers.
Yeah. It does. And as an example of that, and we'll get back to the other thing that we weren't talking about, but Fanatics released the black helmet for like purchase,
Oh,
but
really?
they didn't put the numbers on the side because they had the player numbers on the side.
Hmm.
So it's just straight black. You want to make it look really like the Steelers?
You can use this for either both Steeler fans and Washington fans can have this helmet.
Right. It's basically the Steelers fan with a W, or Steelers thing with a W on the
It
front now.
saves them some manufacturing costs. They just slap a W sticker on the side of the
Yeah.
Steelers helmet.
I collect like mini helmets.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to buy that one.
You've
I'm
got
not a.
two of them behind you that I see, and maybe
I have
three of them. Oh,
I don't know.
four.
I have 8 or 9. I don't remember.
Oh,
how many.
okay.
I'm physically blocking most of them from you seeing.
Yeah, I can see 4 of
And
them in from
I
here.
bought the new helmet because I was always going to, but I don't know if I'll buy the black one. Yeah, just not sure if I will want it. All right, let's talk about the fan attendance at camp.
Okay.
Now it's limited on purpose because they did this stupid lottery thing that no one likes. And so basically, if you look at camp videos right now, it's more or less equaled out when they have a full house. It's basically one row of fans around the entire practice. That's what it is. It's one deep. It's not what it was at Richmond during past where you had fans 30, 40 deep watching practice anymore. But there was a day, I can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday, where about 5 people showed up.
Even the crowded day didn't look like they had a whole slate of fans.
No, I think it's probably limited to maybe 500.
It
is
looked
what it
more
looks
like
to me.
Sierra Desert in July,
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
And the other thing I saw along these lines, excuse me, my throat's really getting
No, it's fine.
right up. I've been talking for 2 hours here, people. Anyway, so I saw Rick Snyder put it out that I think it was Rick, that somebody had measured the positivity of NFL team fan bases on Twitter.
Yeah, and no shocker that we're the most negative.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know where the numbers came from, so don't ask me, but I think I say Washington, sorry. It's hard to get, divorce myself of it, was at 0.69%. Again, I don't know what they're measuring, but
yeah,
that was
I don't know
the
what
number.
that means, but
No, I don't know either.
It is my most fun number, 0.69.
Oh God. I am 12. My name is Alex. But anyway, and so in terms of fans, I did see some photos and stuff, and
Right.
it looked really, really, really sad. And
Yeah,
I noticed in the video I watched this morning, the team was one of the local news stations, I guess, was doing a how do fans feel about the team thing, and they had the camera shot was really tight.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to hide the fact that even on the busy day there was like maybe 50 people there,
right,
at most.
Well, so speaking of the busy day, which is probably going to be today, and we're recording this before a lot of stuff's going to come out
on Saturday, right?
On Saturday, yeah. So Steve has mentioned in the past how the team used to do practices at Andrews. I'm guessing they're not doing that now, but I did see a video, Steve, and I mentioned to you before that they invited a bunch of airmen out from Andrews, and there was a video of like Ron Rivera talking to these airmen, that kind of thing. Gave game balls to some of these guys.
I think
that's what they're doing now instead of
having
going out
played sports on the field at Andrews at Washington practice on when I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base.
Is it a nice field?
No, not really.
Oh.
And I don't know what's happened to it in the years since. It's
we're talking a long time ago.
It was okay. It was fine to, like, if you have a bunch of yutzes who are just out there throwing the ball around and stuff. Right. But in terms of like NFL level stuff, it wasn't that good. And there's no facilities around it either. It's the other thing. It was near the gym, but again, the base gym for me is fine. But when you're an NFL team, the base gym ain't fine, no. And that's probably why they didn't do it, would be my guess.
Yeah. I mean, look, and this all stems back to doing things that the way a local would do it versus the way a consultant does it, to me. Yeah, it might suck for you as a player. suck it up. This is your part of the community. Like,
Yeah, but
I'm
Jason
all.
Wright doesn't care about
I,
that.
I I mean, I'm not a big military guy. Like, obviously, you are. I'm not. It's one of
Yeah.
our things we disagree on. It's fine. I absolutely would be doing what they've always done there. I would I would venture to say I think they should do one practice. They've built some very nice soccer fields over by RFK Stadium. I would do a practice down there. And there's actually parking and people could come and watch there,
They were
know.
smart. They do a practice at RFK Stadium.
Well, RFK is a mess right now.
Is it?
Yeah. They haven't mowed it and like I saw a video from there like the grass is waist high in
Well,
places.
mow it for Christ's
Yeah.
sake. I mean,
It's getting demoed end of the year or early next year. So,
but there's a nostalgia factor. It would be the biggest hit ever if they
oh
did a
yeah,
practice at RFK
absolutely.
Stadium.
I would do more than one at FedEx Field. They should,
Yeah.
if they're not going to put it away, they should be doing more of these things throughout the area.
I think NFL teams ought to stay home. Well, let me say it right. I said that poorly. So if I was the team itself and the coaches and the players, I would want to stay home because I
Mhm.
think it's better to practice at your practice facility. But from a fan appeasement
Engagement.
standpoint, engagement, thank you, it's way better to go somewhere like Richmond.
Yeah. But I would also be okay, like if you're staying at home,
Do some at
do
RFK.
do
Yeah.
some at RFK, do them in little spots around the city.
Well, like
There's,
for example, because I live in Houston, I've said
Mhm.
that the Texans practice facility is across the street and connected by an underground tunnel to the stadium. So they
Right.
have one locker room because I've been in there. They have one locker room, and they use it for games, they use it for practice, and they just walk across the street. And so you can invite everybody to come
Mhm.
to the stadium to see practice when they invite people for practice.
Right. Right. And obviously this team isn't built that way, but that's what they want to do eventually. I know that.
Way the hell out, like
Yeah.
west of Loudoun County, somewhere like
Yes.
West Virginia.
Yeah, basically. You know what? With Virginia basically telling them there's no shot now, I won't be shocked if West Virginia might become an option.
So let me ask you this, Alex.
Yeah.
If they build a team or a stadium either way out in rural Maryland somewhere or way out like south of the Beltway down in Occoquan, which they were
Hmm.
talking about, would you remain a fan of the Washington Commanders?
I look, I've said before, I root for the local team. I don't consider where they were talking about like past Woodbridge. I don't consider
Yeah.
that the
Thank you,
DC area
Woodbridge. I didn't mean
anymore.
Occoquan. I meant Woodbridge.
Yeah. I don't consider that really the DC area at that point.
They're gonna be
So
called the Washington
yeah, guess what? They
Commanders.
could call themselves the Washington football team and play in Norfolk.
Is
And
it the new USFL that has teams with city names that are practicing and playing in another city?
okay, so the USFL, everyone's playing and practicing in Alabama.
Yet it's like they have like Denver and Washington, and I don't understand that.
Yeah. All the teams are named after it's Philadelphia, Michigan, but
Why?
they're all in Alabama. They
Yeah,
just wanted the copyright to the USFL stuff, so they got all the old names.
but
That's
it's like you're not building any sort of
Steve.
local
You
fan
remember that
engagement.
spring league that was going on? It's the same league as
I
the
don't know.
spring
There's
league.
been too many of these failed
The,
football
the
leagues.
the one that was Mike Shanahan was involved in it was going on for like 4 seasons.
I don't remember that. No.
Okay, so it was called the Spring League for
Okay.
years. They basically got the copyrights to the USFL and just renamed all their teams after USFL teams.
And I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole,
Yeah.
but point is, so what you're saying is you probably wouldn't be much of a fan if they moved all the way down to Woodbridge.
That might be where I would be done. Yeah. And hopefully I'd be sitting here hoping the XFL works out for us.
What if they go up north, like halfway to Baltimore, or like way down in like Waldorf or somewhere?
I mean, I feel like they're already halfway to Baltimore. I feel like
they're
and
inside the Beltway.
Yeah.
I mean, FedEx Field is.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, that's DC.
Yeah. Anything in the Beltway is DC to me.
Even right outside the Beltway is in DC. If you're, I mean, because like the old Cap Center, which I assume is gone now, probably.
Yeah, that's right on the other side of where FedEx Field is now.
Yeah, I mean that was DC. I never thought that wasn't DC.
No. But I don't think of Waldorf is like to me Maryland's different. I feel like Maryland is more DC than Virginia. Like the whole state is just more part of DC than I feel like Virginia is.
I've lived in Maryland, and for perspective, everybody, Alex is a urban in DC guy.
Yes, but I grew up in
resident.
Virginia. I've lived in Maryland. I've lived in all three.
Yeah, I have too, and I don't know. I thought like going all the way out to like Fairfax, I consider the Washington D.C. area. Like Loudoun County to me does not feel like D.C.
No, no. More of that part of Virginia does not.
It's more kind of rural
Yeah, yeah.
Virginia than
I
anything.
was out in Chantilly. Chantilly does not feel like DC at
No.
all.
And like Woodbridge doesn't,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I
but
was
yeah,
in
I don't think the stadium's gonna happen in Virginia. So
I don't know where it's going to happen now. I think it's a complete toss up again.
I think that I don't know. I mean, every time I change my mind on this, I
Yeah,
mean, big part of me thinks that the FedEx site is probably the most realistic site.
it might be the smartest uh,
Yeah.
of their options at this point. Okay, we have 10 minutes left till we've done an hour.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit of training camp. I know, Steve, you
Absolutely.
haven't been watching a lot of
I've seen
highlights.
a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And, everything's more limited because there's not as many fans taking videos.
Yeah. We're not there thanks to
We're
the
not allowed to
team's
be there.
PA
Yeah.
staff. PR staff.
Still a little salty about that. I'm not as mad as Jamal was. Jamal was so
Oh,
pissed.
yeah, he was. Well, I mean, he's right. I mean, because
Yeah, and
we've
he's right
covered the
too.
team
Yeah.
fairly.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for credits, credentials for me. It
No.
was,
Me
intentionally
and
so.
Jamal, right.
Yeah. I didn't like what the PR staff did to us.
Yeah.
And they did it to all the blogs, it looks like. So,
Right. Well, so let me give a couple things that have happened in camp. Stuff we're hearing so far as fans and seeing on social media and all that. Defense is outplaying the offense right now. And that's not, people shouldn't panic about that. If the defense is tipping a lot of balls and getting some
pretty
picks,
normal.
Defense is usually ahead of the offense at this point. So I wouldn't be freaked out about that if I were a fan. The wide receivers are being pretty damn impressive. That to me is a great sign. Diami Brown seems to be coming along pretty nicely. Like he might actually bounce back after a rough rookie year. Dotson. Just a side thing. There's a video the team put out about Jahan Dotson getting drafted.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it'll get you juiced up if maybe not you because you're not as passionate about the
I
team.
like pre-draft stuff though. I'll go find it. I'll watch it.
There's a little tidbit in there where when Dotson gets drafted, Doug Williams flew up on the plane to get him and bring him back to DC. So Doug was on the flight with him, and as Doug is bringing him into the facility, Ron Rivera is coming out to meet him, and they just shout some stuff in passing, and Doug's like, "Hey, you got another Terry out here." So I think that's a good vibe. If Doug is just casually mentioning, he reminds him of Terry McLaurin right away.
Let me say this. First of all, some smart analysts last year told you guys that Diami Brown would have a rough first year and needed some time to adjust.
Yeah.
I recall somebody named Steve saying that at the time because it was obvious from his college film that was going to happen.
Right.
Now, Jahan Dotson, I do like Dotson. I tend to respect. I respect's the wrong word. I mean, I'm not flashy, but forget that. I think the receivers that do well in the NFL aren't necessarily the ones that have the highest athletic profile. For receivers in particular, it's hands and route running and football intelligence. And I think Jahan Dotson has all these three things. No, he's not Antonio Brown, flashy.
He's not big.
He's not big. He's not a burner by NFL and receiver standards, but he can run routes precisely. He has quality hands, and he has a big catch. Yeah, he has a big catch radius. I actually like Jahan Dotson a lot, and I think he and Terry McLaurin will be good for this team going forward.
But I just thought that little moment where Doug isn't really prompted by anything. He just casually says to Rivera, "This guy's going to be another Terry."
Yeah, but I mean, Doug's the biggest homer ever, though, too. Remember?
Yeah, but I feel like it's more about this conversation he was having with the guy on the plane, and what
he's like I said, he's smart, he's humble.
If he's got the right head on, if you have a good head on your shoulders, I think so much of pro sports is guys need to manage their own egos, right?
Look at Antonio Brown, for God's sakes.
Yeah, exactly.
As an example.
Doesn't matter how he has all the talent in the world. He could probably, if he didn't have the crazies, he could probably be beating Jerry Rice someday in terms of
I mean,
numbers.
that's tall order, but I mean, yeah, he would certainly be up there,
Right. Okay, maybe a TO or something.
T.O. was another freaking age. T.O. had the size and the speed. I don't put him in that category. But your general point is
Yeah.
valid. He would be, aside from the fact that he's an insane person,
Right.
he ruined his own career. Say it like
Yeah,
that. But so
exactly.
to get it back to Washington, I think those two, if you're a fan of the team, I think there's a real shot that those two can be a big time receiver tandem in the NFL. It depends on the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I saw and what I've briefly watched this week, was that you said it in a pregame we did here too, Alex. Sam Howell looks good. Carson
Yeah.
Wentz looks pretty good. Their arms are much stronger than Taylor Heineke, which we knew.
Right.
And so if one of those two guys can be the long-term solution at quarterback, and neither one's guaranteed, I think McLaurin and Jahan Dotson have a chance to be legit.
Oh yeah, and so there's a couple clips of Sam Howell. If you want to see arm strength that we haven't seen in DC in quite a while. And all right, Dwayne had a cannon. I get that, but what Sam Howell does with like throwing darts, Dwayne didn't really do so much. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between a guy throwing 20 yards and it's going straight versus 20 yards and it's got a huge arc.
I hate to compare Dwayne, rest in peace.
Oh,
Well, it's
yeah,
not
I'm not
because
doing
he's
that,
dead, but it's because
we just
he had a
haven't
really
seen a strong arm here in a long time.
Dwayne had a really bad coaching staff that really misused him, and so I don't think it's a good example, but I do know what you mean. The Sam Howell's problem, though, before anybody gets too excited, he's done this before.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like this at times in college too, but he's inconsistent.
Right.
So he's going to have to develop some consistency, and that will only come through playing time. So if Carson Wentz goes down or leaves or what have you,
Right.
that's when Howell have the time to shine. But I don't know if he can ever be consistent.
I mean, look, Sam Howell, if he has a career, it's going to be very Kirk Cousins like in that he's going to need 2 or 3 years probably to grow into being an NFL starter. And
what is he, a third round? Was he a third round pick?
Fifth round.
Fifth round. Okay.
He could have been a much fifth rounders making it are very low.
Yeah, it is. But if he had been more consistent as a college quarterback, he could have been he could have been a first round draft pick because his arm is that good. It's just he's flaky in terms of performance.
Right. He's got a ways to go. He still looks like he's got a little baby fat on him. But you know what? So did Tom Brady. And I'm not making that comparison that he's going to be Tom Brady, but we all have seen those pictures of Tom Brady his rookie year.
He looks like a dude in math class.
Yeah, he was a little pudgy.
Yeah.
You'd
see at your neighborhood pool with his 10-year-old.
Yes. He more dad bod.
Exactly.
But it's very reassuring to see that Hal might be able to do something.
Speaking of someone who has literally been in that situation with the 10-year-old at the pool.
Oh yeah.
I thought, man, if you just give me like 8 inches of height, I would have looked exactly like Tom Brady.
Yeah, I guess that is the big difference. Tom Brady's what, 6'4"? He's a big dude.
Yeah, and I'm not. So you'd have to give me a lot of inches in height. But the point is, he looked like a regular dude almost.
He did. He definitely did. And you gotta hit the gym pretty hard. Or do the crazy diet thing that Tom Brady does.
I did the crazy diet thing, but not his crazy diet.
No, you didn't do his like crazy. You only eat things that grow at night.
Yeah, exactly. Only things that grow at night.
Yeah. Tom Brady eats like 4 things, and that's all he's allowed to eat. Like he's got the weirdest diet. Yeah. So the only other thing that I picked up on pretty quickly was that the defense made a lot of interceptions off of Carson Wentz the first few days. It sounds like it was a lot of tip balls.
Don't get too wrapped up over that, though.
Yeah, I know.
Because Alex is exactly right. Defenses come along quicker than do offenses, particularly with a new quarterback who's learning the system. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. And also, quarterbacks in training camp tend to be a bit more loose with their passes and stuff
Mm-hmm.
than they would be in games, because they're trying to feel things out and whatnot. So if anybody out there's all gaga over that, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't worry
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
too
yeah.
much.
They're working the deep ball a lot in these practices, which isn't surprising given that you finally have two quarterbacks out of your three that you'll likely keep that have cannons.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense to practice the deep ball there versus not. But I am starting to look forward to seeing some preseason games because I'm very curious to see how Sam Howell and Carson Wentz look in preseason. Heineke could not play in preseason. I'm still going to keep him on the roster just so you have that one veteran backup. But
I think that Ron Rivera, based on his history, will not play starters very much.
no, probably not.
They're going to get like one series in the first game and like two or three series at most in the second game and about the same in the third game. So I think we will see a lot of Sam Howell. I
Yeah, that'd
agree.
be my guess too.
I don't think they're going to play Taylor Heineke too much.
Yeah, I
They
mean
already know what they have. They need to keep him healthy.
right. He's the insurance policy, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to risk him too much either.
And then you'll see Cole Kelly in the fourth quarter of all these games.
I also think coaches are still trying to figure out this whole 3 preseason game thing a bit.
Yes.
It won't surprise me if we see some changes to how much players play each game.
But it's changed a lot anyway, though.
It
I mean,
has.
all the starters used to play basically the whole third game, and now there's not a fourth game,
Right.
and just coaches, like especially Rivera, he doesn't at all. I would personally play the starters more if I were a head coach.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily need to see Terry that much. But I need to see.
It's not really about needing to see him. It's about
Yeah.
getting him ready for the season.
I would put Carson out more since he's your new quarterback and you need to get him the reps. But there are teams like the Rams are known for this. They don't play their starters at all. Like if you're a star on that team, you're not playing. Period. Like.
Well, that's Ron Rivera's halfway there too.
Yeah.
Not all the way, but halfway there.
Yeah. I wonder if any of those advanced analytics sites will do breakdowns of what coaches are doing in preseason like that.
Don't tempt me.
I'm not tempting you. I don't
have
like
time
that'd be
for
way
a
too
project
much
like that. Yeah.
for one person.
I have called Alex periodically about ideas I've had and working on that are like way out there in terms of analysis and stuff.
Right.
And it's
and it'd be something like that. Like you need to count the snap counts for every game for a full season.
I did do something like that. I did have an idea like that.
Yes.
And I don't want to get into it all here, but it's like at some point, I mean, listen, this is a hobby and not a full timer, and I just don't have time for it.
Yeah, I mean, I did some weird stuff like that too, and it was so absurd that it took me like 3 weeks to do the analysis.
I think the most in-depth thing I ever did was 2 of them. Was my analysis of injuries was way out there. And then where I did my draft analysis, where I looked at every draft pick in the last 20 years for every team.
Right.
That ended up, that took me like 6 weeks to do. And there were like 4 columns and, but I'm more motivated to do that when I was really a fan of the team than now.
Right. And it's easier to do for one team as a fan of a team.
Yes.
But the league-wide stuff, you need multiple people.
The injury history thing took a long.
Yeah.
And it started off with like somebody asked me a simple question on our website, and that turned into like, this huge column. I had to use regression analysis, and it went
right.
Really
you went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not doing that this year. No more rabbit holes.
Definitely not. No.
Yeah. All right, guys. That should wrap up this show. We didn't talk as much about training camp as I wanted because there was like 400 topics that we had to...
I know. We kind of ran out of time. I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's fine. Okay. It's fine. There's nothing that we talked about that I wouldn't really cut. So.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We will talk to you all next week. Later.